Death is something we all know will happen one day, but most of us spend our lives trying not to think about it. We keep ourselves busy, distracted, and convinced that there will always be more time later. More time to fix things, more time to say what we really mean, more time to live the life we actually want. But doctors who work in hospice and palliative care don't have the luxury of avoiding this reality. Every day, they sit with people who are facing the very end of their lives. And because of that, they hear things most of us never will. Quiet confessions, honest reflections, simple, powerful words spoken when there's nothing left to hide. And what people say right before they die might surprise you. Not because it's dramatic, not because it's poetic, but because it's painfully human. For doctors who care for the dying, one thing becomes very clear very quickly. At the end of life, people stop talking about what they owned, what they achieved, or how busy they were. Those things fade away. What remains are relationships, choices, and time. Hospice doctors often ask patients two questions near the end. What brings you joy, and what matters most to you? At first, people give different answers. Some talk about work, some talk about family, some talk about faith, or memories, or accomplishments. But as the days pass and the reality of death becomes impossible to ignore, the conversation almost always shifts in the same direction. It turns toward regret. Not dramatic regret, quiet regret, the kind that sits heavy in the chest. Across thousands of patients, doctors have noticed that these regrets usually fall into just a few categories. The first, and by far the most common, is this: I wish I had spent more time with the people I love. Patients talk about arguments that lasted years, relationships that ended over small misunderstandings, pride that kept them from picking up the phone. They say things like, I can't believe I stopped talking to my daughter for 10 years over something that doesn't even matter anymore. Or, I thought we'd have more time to fix things. At the end of life, people don't regret the conversations they had. They regret the conversations they avoided, the apologies they never made, the forgiveness they never offered or never accepted. The second major regret doctors hear is about work. People say, I work too much. In many cultures, success is measured by productivity. Being busy is treated like a badge of honor. People tell themselves they're working hard for their family, for the future, for security. But at the end of life, patients often realize something painful. They worked so much that they missed the very moments they were working for. Dinners, holidays, ordinary days that never come back. Very few people say they wish they had spent more time at the office. Many say they wish they had been more present at home. The third common regret is quieter, but just as heavy. I wasn't brave enough to live the life I wanted. Patients talk about dreams they put aside, passions they never pursued, paths they didn't take because they were afraid of failing, being judged, or disappointing others. They say things like, I lived the life everyone expected of me, or I always wanted to do this, but I never thought I was allowed to. Near the end of life, fear loses its grip, and with that comes clarity. People realize that no one else was going to live their life for them. What's striking is that no matter how different people's lives are, the regrets are almost always the same. Different backgrounds, different incomes, different stories, but the same themes repeat again and again. Time, love, courage. That raises a difficult question. If these regrets are so common, why do so many of us still make the same choices? Part of the answer is that we assume we have time. When people imagine death, they usually picture it happening far in the future, in their 70s, 80s, or 90s. But hospice doctors say that more and more patients are much younger. People in their 40s, 30s, even younger. This changes everything. For younger patients, the fear is often overwhelming. Not just fear of death itself, but fear of what they're leaving behind. Young children, unfinished lives, responsibilities no one else can fully take over. Older patients sometimes say things like, I'm at peace, or I've lived a good life. Younger patients rarely say that. Instead, they say, I'm not ready. I have so much more to do. Alongside fear and sadness, though, doctors also see something unexpected. Hope. Even at the very end, people hope. They hope for comfort. They hope their family will be okay. They hope they are remembered with love. Some hope for what comes next. Others hope simply to not be in pain. Doctors describe it as a constant dance between fear and hope, between holding on and letting go. When patients talk about what they want most at the end, their answers are surprisingly simple. They want to be comfortable. They want to be at home if possible, and they want to be surrounded by the people they love. Material possessions rarely matter anymore. Status doesn't come up. Titles don't come up. What matters is connection. This is why hospice doctors often encourage something called legacy work. It's the idea of leaving something meaningful behind. Letters, recorded messages, birthday cards written years in advance. words that can be held on to long after someone is gone. For patients, especially parents, this can be incredibly powerful. It gives them a sense of control and peace. And for families, these messages often become priceless. Doctors also suggest something called the rocking chair test for people who are still healthy. Imagine yourself at 90 years old, sitting in a rocking chair, looking back on your life. Ask yourself what you would be proud of, what you would regret, what you would wish you had done differently. This perspective has a way of cutting through the noise of daily life and showing what really matters. As patients near the very end, doctors notice something else. While everyone's final moments are unique, the words people say often sound very similar. I love you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. And I'm sorry. Simple words, but spoken with incredible weight. Doctors often say that when families finally say these things to each other, it changes the entire atmosphere of the room. There is grief, but there is also peace. What many people don't realize is that hearing is often the last sense to go. Even when someone appears unresponsive, they may still hear everything. This is why doctors encourage loved ones to say what matters, even if they're not sure the person can respond. And it's just as important to be careful with what you say. Anything spoken in that room may be heard. Being present for death doesn't just change patients and families, it changes doctors too. Many say their work has completely reshaped how they live their own lives. They prioritize relationships, they forgive more easily, they take better care of themselves. Some doctors say a single sentence spoken by a dying patient changed everything for them. A reminder that life is fragile, that time's limited, that health and presence can't be postponed forever. After witnessing thousands of final moments, most hospice doctors agree on one thing. People don't usually regret the things they did. They regret the things they didn't do, the love they didn't express, the risks they didn't take, the relationships they didn't heal, and the hardest part is that so many of those regrets could have been avoided. That's the lesson people leave behind, even if they don't say it out loud. You don't need to wait until the end to live with intention. You don't need a diagnosis to start making different choices. Reach out to the person you've been meaning to call. Say the words you've been holding back. Forgive what no longer serves you. Make time for what actually matters, because every day you wake up is a gift. And the life you're living right now, with all its stress and imperfections, is something someone else wishes they still had. Death may be inevitable, but regret doesn't have to be.